Welcome to Opposition Territory here at the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, the longest-running weekly Philly sports podcast show in the world, over 12 and a half years strong. Got a great preview coming your way this week here on Opposition Territory. The Philadelphia Eagles going to be taking on the Detroit Lions this coming weekend. This is going to be quite a matchup. And to get into it with us here, we have one of our faves who covers the Lions, Mr. Jeff Risdon. Jeff, buddy, how you doing, my friend?
Good to be with you. This is a big game. It's fun to be playing in big games. I say that as a long-suffering Lions fan. We're still not quite used to it just yet,
right?
But we're getting used to it, and it's a lot of fun.
It's been a while since it. I should say it's taken the Lions a little while to get to this point here for sure. But let's Jeff, before we get into the topics, what we're going to be diving into with regard to this matchup, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you out there if they want to connect with you, learn a little bit about the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, sure. You can find me. I'm the managing editor at Lions Wire at USA Today. I'm also the managing editor for Draft Wire. So if you're a draft junkie, check out Draft Wire. I just put up my top 50 prospects for this week. And if you're ever driving across the state of Michigan, you happen to be in our wonderful state, I am on the radio most afternoons from 3 to 6 on The Huge Show. You can stream it also on iHeart. So
very nice.
And I'm also the host of the Detroit Lions podcast, and we go live most Wednesdays.
All right, very good. Very good. Got a lot of stuff. You got a lot of stuff going on. You got a lot of stuff going on. And look, this matchup, it's gonna be key. It really is. And as we look at this Detroit Lions team, I'm concerned as a Philadelphia Eagles fan. It's just a strong team from an overall and macro perspective. They're at the top of the NFC North. I mean, the Bears are right there as well with them. Both teams 7-2 at this. Both teams are 7-2 at this point, right?
6-3.
6-3. I'm sorry.
Yep.
That's right. I'm thinking about the Eagles. Sorry.
Yeah, y'all got us there. Yes. But we were in first place because y'all beat Green Bay, and we're happy about that.
Exactly. Well, let's get into some of the strengths and weaknesses of this Lions team here. We'd like to do this on our Opposition Territory shows every week. So the two-part question is biggest strength, biggest weakness. Let's start with the biggest strength of this Lions team, Jeff, as we're heading into week 11 of this season.
I think it's the diversity of weaponry on the offense with Jared Goff at the controls. But Jahmyr Gibbs as a running back, there aren't 5 better than him. Amon-Ra St. Brown at wide receiver, there aren't 5 better than him. Sam Laporta at tight end, there aren't 5 better than him.
Right.
Penei Sewell, there aren't 2 better than him at offensive tackle within the league. And Jameson Williams is coming on as a very effective weapon. Talk a little bit more about him probably a little bit later.
We talked about Jameson Williams the last time.
Exceptional number 2 back.
Yep.
They can just beat you in so many different ways offensively. And now that Dan Campbell is calling the plays again, we're pretty happy to see that he's using those weapons a little bit more effectively. And they are a very difficult offense to stop when they're playing well.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about Jameson Williams in a little bit. I know we talked about him the last time that you were on the show and the development that Detroit Lion fans were hoping to see from him and what type of player he would become here in the NFL during this 2025 season. But let's flip things over. What is the biggest weakness on this Lions team thus far after 10 weeks as we're heading into week 11?
It might sound nitpicky, but it is a big deal. The special teams have not been good at all. They're giving up way too many yards for having they have a fantastic. There aren't 5 punters better than Jack Fox. The coverage units have been rotten. The blocking on the returns has not been good. The returns, other than Kelly Freeman getting 1 punt return for it's not been good at all. And when you're playing in a game like this that has playoff implications and will have a playoff atmosphere, you need every yard you can get. And the Lions are bleeding way too many yards, both on the return and coverage units right now. I know that's sort of abstract and away from the typical strengths, but
no, I love it.
It really is a big deal for how poorly, and this was a unit that was really, really good last year. One of the best in the league. Dave Phipp has been a respected coordinator for a long time. His units just collectively are not having a good year. And by the way, Jake Bates, who's a pretty good kicker, has had 2 kicks blocked in the last couple of weeks, and both of them were on him for kicking the ball too low.
Yep.
So if you're looking for a hidden advantage, if you're an Eagles fan, special teams are it.
Yeah, special team. We know the Eagles have done their fair share of blocking some field goals this year thus far.
Yeah, that's more than a little worrisome.
Absolutely. And I'll say this too, Jeff. I said it on our Eagles postgame podcast show this past week. Xavier Gibson of the Philadelphia Eagles punt returner. He was averaging 15.5 yards per punt return. There's something to be said about that. As you just said, every single yard matters. Eagles haven't had a punt returner doing stuff like that in a very long time. You know, special teams are so very key, and they don't get their due.
No. We try to give it to them here.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, let's move into one Jared Goff, one of the top quarterbacks, I think, in this league. He may not necessarily, in terms of quarterback rankings, be like up there, maybe top 5 or so, but he's in year 10. Boy, this guy has grown so much as a quarterback over all of these years, and especially in Detroit since that trade with the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, Jared Goff really is one hell of a quarterback at the end of the day. He's got 17 passing touchdowns on the season, 3 interceptions. He's almost at 2,000 yards passing and putting it through the air this season. I'm wondering, what's the best part of how Jared Goff has been able to take command of the offense, Jeff? And then on the flip side, where does he need more work? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, that's a good question. And Goff certainly deserves all the credit that he's getting. And it took a lot of us some time to accept that Jared Goff was going to be that good that quickly. First year, which I believe was the last time he played Philadelphia, was not good at all.
Right.
He's grown so much from that. And his leadership, his steadiness as a person. He will have a bad play here and there. You'll never know it. He's very good at bouncing back from mistakes, and he makes so few of them. His completion percentage and accuracy right now is just, he's so accurate over the middle of the field without putting the ball at risk. And that's those are two very separate issues. He's found that balance very well. He doesn't force throws. He's really good at making the pre-snap reads and making the correct determination of where the ball goes. He's learned how to throw the ball away better than he did earlier in his career. It was one of the issues that Sean McVay had with him in Los Angeles was, dude, throw the ball away. Turf it, something. He's gotten so much better at that. He's still immobile. He did run for a 9-yard run this year. It was one of those, though, where if it was Jalen Hurts would have taken it for 80. He is what he is on that. I will say he hasn't necessarily. I just praised him for getting rid of the ball and not taking negative plays. He's taken some sacks this year where we probably could have gotten rid of the ball. Maybe some of that's on the quick pressure up the middle, which. Look, that's not good for any quarterback, but that's really not good for Jared Goff. So it's an area where he's just year 10. He is what he is at this point. He's a fantastic leader, a very good, train conductor, keeps everything running as it needs to be. Uses all of his weapons very well. He's not a guy who's going to win many games on his own for you.
Yeah.
But he's almost never going to be the reason why you lose. And there's
something to be said for that. There really is.
For sure. We both know from experiences with our teams that's kind of a good thing.
Yes, absolutely is, for sure. And look, Jalen Phillips, new defensive end and pass rusher for the Eagles, are going to be wanting to breathe down Jared Goff's neck this coming week. We're certainly going to be getting into the Lions' offensive line and how they may be matching up against the Eagles' defensive front in a bit. But before we go to our break here, I wanted to really dive into the first matchup that I think is going to be really intriguing, Jeff. It's going to be the Eagles' offensive line against the defensive front of the Detroit Lions. Eagles offensive line really seemed to regress just this past week while up at Green Bay. My gosh, just tons of undisciplined play, so many penalties, too many penalties, and they just don't seem to be as succinct of a unit as we have seen from this group in the past. Yes, injuries have been prevalent throughout, Landon Dickerson, his season thus far, and Cam Jurgens, we're not sure if he's going to be back on the field this week either. So yes, there is some inconsistency. How do you see this Eagles offensive line matching up against the Lions defensive front this week?
I think the big thing for Detroit in attacking it is if Aiden Hutchinson is getting double teamed and he gets double teamed at a higher rate than just about anybody. I think Myles Garrett is the only guy who's above him in that, and that makes sense. The guys like Al-Qadim Muhammad and Aleem McNeil and Pat O'Connor, if he plays, Tyleik Williams, the first round pick, who's much more of an attack style tackle in the NFL than he was at Ohio State. They've got to get pressure and they've got to get home and not lose. If they've got an opportunity to make a play, they need to make the play.
Yes.
And from what I've seen from the Eagles line with the last few weeks, really, like they're still really, really good, but they're not as elite as they have been. They have some vulnerabilities to it. And Aiden Hutchinson seems to be the guy who can really take advantage of that. Now he's coming off of a game. Got to put this in context. Our kicker had more tackles than our star defensive end in the last game. So Hutch needs to step it up a little bit. It was not a great game, really, for Aleem McNeil, who's a very, very good defensive tackle. He's come back healthy. DJ Reader is a great nose tackle in the middle, but he's not a guy who's going to make plays. But I think just with those guys also, they free things up for Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone and Derek Barnes, the three linebackers. And the Lions do play three linebackers almost all the time. If they can facilitate those guys getting an advantage, getting to Saquon before he gets ahead of steam, pressuring Jalen Hurts before he can get comfortable, making him move off of his spot and move it a different way than he wants to, that's where this defensive line can really impact the game. Again, the Eagles have a very good offensive line. It's very proven. But if you can impact them just a little bit, I think that gives the Lions a pretty good chance on defense.
Yeah, look, Saquon Barkley not having the season that many expected and thought he would, only 3.9 yards per carry on 149 carries, only 579 yards thus far, and 4 touchdowns this season, Jeff. It's not because Saquon Barkley isn't talented. It's because that Eagles offensive line just isn't as cohesive as they have been in the past. I mean, for me, that is the biggest concern heading into this game for sure. And again, folks, we're talking to Jeff Risdon. We're going to take a break, but make sure you go on over and search out the Lions Wire at USA Today. Jeff has always got some great content up there, and you're doing so much as well. We got to talk about the draft at some point. I need to have you on to talk about draft prospects because you're so good at it, Jeff.
Absolutely.
Look, folks, gonna like and subscribe to us if you're watching on YouTube. We'd greatly appreciate it. And you can also hit the bell to be posted or to be notified when we post new videos. And we're also on various social media sites as well. Over on Instagram, Twitter /X. I'm over on TikTok at Mr. Jeff Warren. Facebook Threads. I'm over on Blue Sky at Jeff Warren. You can search out my co-hosts as well. And we are going to be back in a bit with some more of this matchup. Eagles against the Lions this week. Stick with us. All right, we're back with our good friend Jeff Risdon. And Jeff, let's dive into more matchups here. I mean, this is going to be a fantastic game, as we've been saying. At least I think it is. I thought the Green Bay Eagles game was going to be fantastic, and it was one of the biggest snooze fests in the world. I think we're going to get a little something different this weekend for sure.
It was competitive.
Defensively, it was an amazing game. It was great for sure. And part of that too was the Eagles secondary. I mean, they played so well during this past week's game up in Green Bay at Lambeau Field. They played aggressively. They were breaking up passes. I think they had 5 passes defended during the course of the game. They weren't getting beat too badly at all by the route running from the Green Bay's receivers, which I thought was really great for this young core of athletes that are really starting to just kind of get. Some of these guys are still finding their way. Amon-Ra St. Brown, as you mentioned before, Lions' top receiving target. I mean, just a top 5 receiver in this league. Sam Laporta, the second top receiver, or second receiver, I should say, on this Lions team as well. How do you see the Lions receiving core matching up against this Eagles secondary this week?
You know, it's one of those where they're going to have to use their savvy. The Lions' offense is especially Amon-Ra, is at its best over the middle of the field.
Yeah.
And passing through zones or making just, using spatial dynamics, getting himself open with Laporta running, routes that are in concert with it, with Jameson Williams and his speed on the outside. He removes the safeties from the equation incredibly well, and he can do more than that.
Yeah,
but that's one of the things that has really opened up the middle of the field for Amon-Ra St. Brown. You can't rule out Khalif Raymond has played very well when given a chance. He had a few catches the other night against Washington. Obviously, Washington's secondary is nothing like Philadelphia, so
right.
That's going to be different. But I think if you're the Eagles, you want to limit run after catch opportunities, especially with Laporta and St. Brown, because they are very good at catching the ball on the dead run. Goff's accuracy really plays a role there. And make sure that you don't let on 3rd and 8, if they throw it 6 yards, don't let him get that extra 2 yards, because that's one of the areas where the Lions are really good. Now, having said that, the Lions will go for it on 4th down and will probably get it, but they
same with the Eagles, actually.
Yeah. Yes. You've got to make sure that you limit the damage when they do get completions, because look, they're not going to be shut down. That's just not how this offense is. Even in the doldrums when John Morton was still calling plays and there wasn't a lot of flow to it or anything, they still put up some yards and put up some points.
Yeah.
And the key is don't give up the big plays, don't give up the disheartening plays. And if you do get beat, next play, man, get right back up in line and do it, because they're going to keep coming at you. And that's one of the things that the Lions do so well. And especially with Dan Campbell calling plays, he will relentlessly pick at those scabs until you bleed to death.
Yeah.
And I love that. I'm an older school guy like yourself. We grew up in a time where that was like how you beat people. Like if you found something, keep poking at it, man.
Keep poking it. Yep, absolutely. Keep taking that scab
really,
off.
Really good at that. Really good at that. And then I didn't even Jahmyr Gibbs coming out of the backfield on a Texas route or an angle route, unstoppable, because your linebackers have so much to worry about with Laporta. In the 12 personnel, Brock Wright is not a very good blocker, but he is a pretty good receiver, and he is dangerous enough when he leaks out into the flat. You've got to have a linebacker go and attend to him.
Yeah,
and that just opens up so much space. And again, this is where Jared Goff's brilliance comes in. He's so masterful at finding the mismatch and taking advantage of the most opportune opportunity. There's probably a better way to say that, but we'll go with that.
I gotta tell you too, Amon-Ra St. Brown against Quinyon Mitchell. It's going to be fascinating to watch. It really will. Jameson Williams, as we mentioned earlier, continuing to develop. It's going to be interesting to see how he plays over the field in terms of those intermediate routes as well, and how he's able to match up against some of the Eagles linebackers and just that number two cornerback spot that is always the question mark on this Eagles team here in this 2025 season. But let's move on here, Jeff, to look, the Eagles pass rush and the run defense, they were on fire this past week up in Green Bay. Defensive front really coming on strong at this point in the season. I'm wondering, how do you see the Lions offensive line handling the Eagles pass rush and the run defense, because they now have a talent like Jalen Phillips, who was absolutely incredible in terms of his debut this week in Midnight Green, and Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis just clogging up those lanes. It's an aggressive front for sure. Again, how do you see the Lions offensive line handling this pass rush and run defense of the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, so we talked earlier about how the Eagles line isn't as good as it has been. The Lions have the same issue. They really miss Frank Ragnow at center. The All-Pro retired offseason. They replaced him with Graham Glasgow. It's not the same, to be kind. Glasgow actually had a really nice game against Washington. I need to give him credit for that. But then the left guard was Christian Mahogany coming on in the second year, but he missed almost all of his rookie season. And he was playing pretty darn good football. Well, he's out until at least Christmas, if not longer, with a broken foot, ankle. So, you're plugging in people now there. Actually, former Eagle Coyote Ashika will be the starting left guard, and he's played a lot. And he is a very serviceable, functional backup but a long-term starter, there's a reason why he's been on the Lions bench for a long time. He will be fine, but he's not an asset the way that Mahogany could be. And they really need to have Graham Glasgow play his best football. Starting right guard is a rookie, Tate Ratledge. He's a good one. He's getting better by the week. Really good people mover in the run game, but that's going to be challenged. He hasn't really gone up against, the litany of talent that you just laid out.
Right.
There's a lot of really good players on that Philly defense.
Yes.
And I actually like the way that the Philadelphia linebackers play off behind them. That's one of the things that Detroit is really good at, is having your linebackers react behind the line. And I think the Eagles linebackers are stepping up and doing that better than they have been in a long time.
Yes.
It's a continuation of last year primarily, but the last couple of games, they seem to have really been dialed in on where the play is going to go and staying off the blocks and eliminating cutback lanes and things like that. And that's where Jahmyr Gibbs kills you.
Yep.
That's where, if David Montgomery gets a chance to plant a foot hard and break, he's dangerous.
Yep.
And the Eagles do a really good job of not allowing that. So that, to me, is going to be the biggest thing. Can Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker handle being attacked in the pass rush as well as going out and attacking in the run game?
Yes.
They're a great tackle tandem, but they have their limitations, and this is going to be a really big test for them. So I think between where the defensive line and the defensive front for the Lions has an advantage, I think on the flip side, Philadelphia has that advantage against Detroit, and it will sort of be, who can win that, mano-a-mano battle.
Yeah, absolutely. When you have, in terms of the Eagles linebackers, Nakobe Dean coming back, and boy, what a strong presence he's been. Zach Bond, we know what he can do. Jihad Campbell, goodness, for a rookie season, he's having quite the year thus far. So, again, great matchups to keep our eyes on. And as we end the discussion here, like we do on our opposition territory pods every week, Jeff, want to talk about the one thing the Lions are going to need to hit on for a win, the one thing the Eagles are going to need to hit on for a win this week. Let's start with the Lions. What's that one thing the Lions are going to need to hit on for a win this week against Philadelphia Eagles?
I think they're going to have to win the third down battles.
Okay.
Keep the Eagles, and I will include fourth down conversions into that as well, because both teams like to go for it on fourth down. They do it a little bit different. Y'all have the tush push. We have the play action pass to our sixth tackle. That's different styles, but I think the team that wins that battle, offensively and defensively, if it's a decisive one, because the Lions do thrive on keeping drives alive, and there's a very demoralizing capacity to that. Eagles know this very well. It's something that Sirianni has preached. I've heard him say it. When you give up like 3 fourth down conversions in a game, as a defense, you're just like, what do we do?
Yes.
And I think
how do we stop these guys? Yeah.
Yeah. And when the Lions are doing that allows them to control the ball. That allows them to, open up so many different things that they can do, because, with all those weapons again, if you're in third and short, you can take some shots knowing that you can make it on fourth down. So I think that's going to be the big thing. And keeping the Eagles from getting into those situations where they can use the tush push.
Yes.
Because it's taken on a whole life of its own. I'm sure you've had episodes upon episodes about that.
Yeah.
But it does still work. And that's something that you do want to avoid if you're a team that's playing the Eagles. So I would say that's the biggest thing is control third and fourth downs and be the team that wins those drives.
Would you say it's the same thing for the Eagles? What's the one thing the Eagles are going to need to hit on for a win? Would you say it's the same thing, or is there something different that you're thinking about?
That's certainly part of it, but I do think that getting pressure in Goff's face early is something that Minnesota did very well. And when that happens, he turns down, against Minnesota specifically, there was a lot of screens, a lot of quick dump-offs where plays didn't have a chance to develop down the field. And when you do that enables those linebackers to pin their ears back even more.
Yeah.
That allows your safeties to take some chances and try to make plays on the ball. And that is not where Goff is at his best. So I think, that interior offensive line for the Lions against the Eagles front, Zach Bond is such a blitzer from all over the formation.
Yes.
He's a wild card that's a very difficult presence. So the Lions have their own in Jack Campbell. And I think that I think that he's getting his appreciation around the league. But it's one of those things where when I talk to people from the opposing team, nobody ever brings him up as a matchup.
Right.
He's really, really good, y'all.
Yeah.
Beware of him. He can ruin some things. So I think he will need to have a good game. And also, obviously, turnovers are a big thing.
Yeah.
And the other one, again, the Lions special teams cannot lose this game for them, and they've not been playing well. I don't want to like oversell how bad they've been because they do have their moments, but I also don't want to undersell. They're vulnerable there.
Yeah.
And the Eagles have good units. So that worries me.
He is Jeff Risdon, folks, again, from the Lions Wire over at USA Today. Check out everything he has going on over there. Great content, as always. We got to talk some NFL prospects. We got to talk some college prospects at some point, Jeff. I'd love to have you on again, my friend. Seriously, come back and join us, and let's have another great conversation.
Anytime, Jeff. Thanks, man.